Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The 21st century world order is defined by deepening complexities, ranging from the diffusion of power amongst nations and the declining influence of global institutions to the emergence of dimensions of conflict. For India, pursuing its ambition in this evolving landscape demands a nuanced understanding of these dynamics. To effectively navigate this environment, India must define and prioritize its strategic objectives in alignment with the challenges and the opportunities of the contemporary global order. So our presentation today will begin by visiting the fundamental dynamics of evolving world order, institutional erosion, geopolitical tensions, and India's perspective. We shall then examine the broader regional security challenges and India's strategic outlook. To keep our analysis focused and precise, the syndicate shall restrict its scope to military security aspects only. Lastly, we shall suggest a systematic approach to assess the contemporary threat scenario to aid higher-level policy decisions. In international relations, true diplomatic strength, the kind that actually makes a difference, doesn't come just from a fancy speeches or eloquent words. It comes from real power and will. Ramdhari Singh Dinkar expressed it better than any diplomat could in his poem written in 1962, Shakti or Shama. And I quote, सच पूछो तो शर्म में ही बसती है दीप्ति विनय की, संधि वचन संपूज उसी का जिसमें शक्ति विजय की. Unquote. Simply put, respect for treaties and diplomacy comes from those who have the strength to back it up. The nation states that we see today are born of an idea devised nearly 4 centuries ago at a peace conference of Westphalia in 1648. It laid the foundational concept of sovereignty, non-interference, and legal equality among states. Later, the global influence of European power in 18th and 19th century through colonies was replaced by comprehensive reshaping of global power structure by 2 world wars. The establishment of United Nations after World War II symbolized the quest of institutionalized peace and collective security. Following World War II, a bipolar order emerged, characterized by the nuclear deterrence, deep ideological divides, and numerous proxy wars. NATO and the Warsaw Pact became instruments for projecting bloc-specific ideologies and exerting strategic influence across the globe. India, meanwhile, became a leading voice for an alternative path through the non-aligned movement, advocating principles of sovereignty. Then came the collapse of Soviet Union, marking the unipolar movement. The US emerged as a lone superpower, promoting liberal internationalism, global institutions, and interventions. India liberalized its economy by remaining cautious and skeptical of a world governed by a single dominant power. With American power shifts power seemed unrivaled after 1991, early 21st century brought seismic shift. The Bush Doctrine after 9/11 signaled a willingness to sidestep institutions and even sovereignty in favor of unilateral actions. Conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan demonstrated the limits of US policy intervention with protracted military engagements affecting both resources and credibility. 2008 global financial crisis severely undermined the confidence in US-centric neoliberal economic model and exposed systemic vulnerabilities. The sidelining of UN and the COVID-19 pandemic laid bare the inadequacies of global coordination. Rise of nationalism like America First and similar movements prioritize national interest and sovereignty over international cooperation. Remarkable economic growth by countries like China, India, Brazil, Russia, South Africa, and many more African and Latin American nations have put new stakeholders in the heart of international affairs. Political scientist Graham Allison captured the danger of rising tension with the concept of Thucydides' trap. When a rising power threatens an established one, conflict becomes likely. And remember, in international relations, just like family WhatsApp group, agreeing on one thing is nearly impossible. Speaking on rising power, China has presented a major challenge to US hegemony, economically, technologically, and militarily. Beijing's expanding geo-economic footprints and its near monopoly over rare earth minerals, along with its ambitious space program, give a profound strategic leverage. Crucially, advent of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and BRICS Bank our attempt to recast global governance. By leading this multilateral development bank headquartered in Beijing, with China as the largest capital provider, China has strengthened its economic influence in Asia and promotes new economic cooperation models. Classic IR theories like the security dilemma and the Hobbesian trap suggest power shifts like these always risk confrontation. This transition is aptly captured by the three-body problem metaphor, originally a physics concept used in diplomacy by thinkers like Henry Kissinger, to describe an inherently unstable and unpredictable system with multiple competing powers. The present challenges stem from strategic ambiguity, as predicting state actions becomes harder. Bodies like the UN and the WTO face paralysis amid great power rivalry. As global power becomes more fragmented, established institutions find themselves hamstrung, unable to adapt or enforce rules in the face of unpredictability. For India, charting of course demands agility, ambition, and sometimes a sense of humor. Because in international relations, if you don't laugh, you will be probably end up on a sanction list for looking too serious. Globalization and the digital revolution has shifted the balance power, empowering new actors. Militant groups have leveraged technological advances to become international influencers, often destabilizing region and shaping state policy. Simultaneously, giant multinational corporations enabled by technology and capital mobility act as a quasi-sovereign entities shaping trade patterns, labor flows, and even diplomatic agendas. Cyberspace and outer space has emerged as most pervasive space of conflicts. Use of cyber weapons by both state and non-state actors dramatically complicate the task of attribution and response. The age-old caution about militarizing space has given way to real military deployment in orbit. In this context, accountability is elusive and the risk to state sovereignty are magnified. As American hegemony wanes and multipolarity rises, old certainties crumble and systemic instability grows. This global disorder is breeding a dangerous tendency of states to resort to military solutions. Conflict like the Russia-Ukraine war and the Israel-Iran-US tensions highlights what Thomas Schilling called the diplomacy of violence. By 2025, global conflicts has reached levels unseen since World War II. There are currently 59 state-based wars and 56 other conflicts worldwide involving 92 countries outside their own borders. Conflict deaths reached their second highest peak in past 3 decades. Over 110 million people displaced. Economically, conflicts eat up nearly 12% of global GDP. The latest ongoing conflict between Thailand and Cambodia has escalated sharply with deadly airstrikes, landmine incidents, and intense artillery exchanges. This troubling turn of events shows a worrying shift towards resolving dispute through violence rather than diplomacy. In this environment, hoping for lasting peace feels increasingly distant amid mounting instability and geopolitical uncertainty. These trends of institutional erosion, multipolarity, technological change, and rising conflict tells us that we are witnessing a fundamental transformation. Robert Jervis' spiral model theory helps us explain how the erosion of rules and rise in coercion lead us back to the big stick diplomacy of the past. The growing anarchy makes conflicts inevitable. For a rising power like India, this demands a swift and a comprehensive strategy to ensure autonomy and influence in more competitive, fragmented, and disorder-prone world. So, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, realism is the reality and conflicts are inevitable.